More westerlies are coming to New Zealand while Australia is looking mostly dry. Hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us. We've got a cold front moving over the country at the moment, and behind it we've got a more refreshing southwest change, or a westerly change depending on where you are. This airflow is coming out of the Southern Ocean, so it doesn't have any smoke in it. Not that you would have probably noticed the smoke that passed over New Zealand from Australia last night because it was night time, although if you could see the big bright moon, you might have noticed a bit of a haze or a different colour around it. So we've got this change coming through at the moment, and really for the next several days our weather is dominated by the westerly winds. Over Australia though, mostly dry, light winds. They do have a bit of a slight westerly, which is not ideal. It does help push up temperatures and blow smoke into the main centres like Sydney and that. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on what is happening over Australia over the next week or two. And so we've got here the latest rainfall, the next 5 days in New Zealand and the next 5 days in Australia. Look at New Zealand, look at the west coast down here in the bright blue. That's 250 millimetres, maybe even up to 300 millimetres over there on the west coast. Plenty of rain. But the further north you go, the lower those accumulations are. And so when you're up into the drier upper North Island, which is definitely catching some of Australia's big dry at the moment, you can see there the yellow, that's only 5-10 millimetres. So not a lot of rain coming for the north, not much coming at all for the eastern sides. In fact, there might be none. And then the further south you go, Southland and the southern and southwestern parts of both islands are getting, a little bit of rain in there, 30 millimetres or so, maybe even up to 70 around Mount Taranaki. So it's wetter than average along the western side until you get to Auckland, and then it becomes drier than average all the way up to Northland, and it's drier than average for the whole eastern side until you get down to about coastal Otago, and then you just catch some of that wet weather that's coming out of the Southern Ocean. Look at Australia though, very different. Other than Tasmania down here, took a bit to find it, Tasmania with the pink colouring there, that's about 50 millimetres of rain. There are a couple of showers brushing Sydney and Brisbane. They're mostly in the form of afternoon downpours, maybe a couple of thunderstorms, but you're only talking 5 to 10 millimetres. Otherwise, it is dry. And what's remarkable is it's dry right up here in the tropical areas as well. So unbelievably dry across Australia at the moment, and there's no real change in that forecast. Let's have a look now at New Zealand a little bit closer term, shorter term here, and just over the next couple of days. We are looking at more of those westerly winds blowing through with showers on the western side. So Friday does end on a bit of a windy note with a few showers here and there and some rain coming back to the west coast. It also means many places are about average or slightly warmer than average though across the day, especially in the eastern areas. Into the weekend, and Saturday sees rain again on the west coast with showers moving further north. Now if you're in Auckland, you're right on the borderline. I think overall it's a mostly dry day. High pressure is just there. So there's not exactly the best conditions for rain to go north. But with all the rain on the west coast and all the low pressure in the Southern Ocean, wetter than average around the west coast, wetter than average in Southland, wetter than average up to about Mount Taranaki, and then it starts to dry out. And once you get to Auckland and Northland and the far north, those areas are all drier than average at the moment. So I don't expect a lot of rain coming through there. And eastern areas, dry but a bit windy. Wellington could be seeing gale force winds at times. And on Sunday, the rain clouds are moving closer to northern New Zealand. They should move through overnight. The totals won't be very great. The winds are still blustery through Cook Strait, blustery around the eastern North Island, where, by the way, it is also subtropical for you. Down in the lower South Island, it does become a little cooler. There'll be snow on the mountains and ranges. Don't worry, it's not a major cold event. It's just really a little bit of this chaos in the Southern Ocean that's brushing by you. Now, as we get into next week, Monday sees that front clearing away from the North Island, and you've got more rain and showers over the south. In fact, it might be a little cooler around the whole South Island as we kick off next week. Still dry over Australia, not much going on there. There are a few showers, as we just saw, hugging the very eastern coastline. Otherwise, high pressure is dominating across Australia. Now to Tuesday, still windy in New Zealand, so we're very much in the spring weather pattern. We got more rain on the west coast. I got asked yesterday, seriously, when will the rain stop? And I said, I think it'll sort of gradually fade out as we go through this month. But it is very wet at the moment over on the west coast. Strong winds, so that means warmer than average along the eastern side. And as we go through the middle of next week, around Wednesday, it does look like a low pressure system is tracking over the South Island. There's your burst of wind. There's your burst of rain again on the west coast. But here's the good news, especially for you on the west coast. There's a big high coming out of Australia heading our way. So the end of next week looks dry nationwide and sunny nationwide, or mostly sunny. So that's an improvement, especially around the South Island and the lower North Island. But for the very upper North Island, not a lot of rain on the way for those areas that do need some more rain. That is all from me. We'll catch you again tomorrow with the latest around New Zealand and what's happening over in Eastern Australia.